to fund your future with DRS. Well, we know that listeners get excited when we have podcast episodes about early retirement. So we're continuing our retirement mindset series with a conversation with Tracie, who works here at DRS on our accounting team and will be retiring this summer. Tracie is retiring before the age of 65. So we thought it would be a great idea to pick her brain on how she got here and what she's planning to do in retirement. Welcome, Tracie.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to talk with you guys today.
Wonderful. Tracie, thank you for joining us. I know I already shared this with you, but when someone told me that you were retiring, I said, that's not possible. Tracie is not old enough to retire. And I'm excited that you're going to retire. But could you just give our listeners a little background on anything that you're willing to share about like what helped set the stage for this conversation, how long you've worked as a public employee, what sort of work you've done, and approximately how early are you retiring?
Sure. So I began in 1987 working for Thurston County Treasurer, a PERS 2 employer. I worked there for 13 years. I did various positions, and then I went to the state treasurer. I was there for about a year and a half. And then our daughter was born in 2001. So I took off about 3 years with her, totally left employment. And she was about 3, and I started looking for some part-time work and went to Department of Licensing. I got a part-time permanent job there, another state employer. I was there for just over about a year and a half, and I don't live far from DRS. I'm kind of in the neighborhood, and I'd take walks, stroller walks with my daughter, and I went by DRS building, and I remember thinking, "Hey, I think I'd like to work here." It was kind of along the lines of my interests, and then November of 2006, I started working a part-time permanent position in imaging for DRS. And from there, I've been at DRS now since 2006, and here I am. So
Wow.
currently, yes, I'm 62. I'll be turning 63 in October.
That's great. Thank you for that background.
When did you start to think about retirement? And when did you get serious about this idea of retiring early?
Well, I gave it some passing thought of retiring prior to 65, kind of as the years were ticking by and my service credit years were getting up there. And so, May of 2023, I went on DRS Online, my account, and I got my first estimate. I was comparing, what's it look like at 63 versus 65. So, 2 years difference. I was looking at 11/1/26 or 11/1/28. A couple months later, I did an amortization schedule of our house. I'm going to say, okay, what if I wanted our house to be paid off July 1, 2026? So I started adding more toward the principal. So at least, if I wanted to go out, 2 years early, I would have our house paid off. I got real serious then, April of 25, when I did another estimate, and I then was comparing July 26 to November 26. And I started looking at, well, okay, if I do purchase an additional annuity, adding that to my income and my 35 years, it was looking like the real deal could really happen. And so I really made it official. I told my supervisor the 1st of January of 26 that I was pinpointing July of 26 as my retirement date because everything seemed to be coming together financially. Wanted to pay off that house. I'd be able to get my net money that I currently take home today with my annuity and my 35 years. So I'm like, why not? I'm ready.
That's great. In terms of your mortgage payment, you knew you were within like 5 years of paying it off. Sounds like it was like maybe 3 or 4 years out.
Yeah, we just needed to make some additional principal payments in order to make that July 1 cutoff. Wasn't mandatory. I'm just like, okay, let's get debt free of all things we can. And we bought a new truck in 2020. Last payment is July of 26, on a brand new truck. So I'm retiring. We don't have any debt. What am I working for?
I love that idea, though, of lining up both your expenses and your income to a
Mhm.
certain date, and thinking of not just what does my income look like today or what does my expenses look like today, but what could they look like 3 years from now or 5 years from now, and what actions can I take today
Mhm.
to influence what those outcomes are going to be 3 or 5 or 10 years down the road. That's great.
Yep, that was certainly part of the planning process to make us feel comfortable.
Yeah, I certainly feel like I hear from retirees that idea of being able to retire debt free, retire without any obligations can be really freeing. And like, oftentimes that is why people are working. We're working to pay the bills. If my bills shrink significantly, then maybe I can think differently about what I need to do for work, whether that's completely retiring or working part time. Were there other actions that you took earlier on in your career? Obviously, starting work relatively young and working for a real consistent, even though you did take some time off with your daughter, were there other things that you did along the way to help set yourself up for this ability to retire early?
Yeah, I'm gonna, push the DCP program. Even when I started part-time, I started putting into DCP the minimum amount in 2007 when I was working part-time, and just increased that over the years as finances allowed. As I started getting toward the reality of retirement, really upped it because I wanted to use the DCP funds to purchase an annuity in retirement. And as a family, we try to make money work for us, no credit card debt, but we do use the Costco Citibank Visa, which I buy everything with that. I pay it off every month, and they give me they give me a chunk of money that goes right into our bank account at the end of the year for using their card. I don't pay any interest, but again, we get a percent of what our purchases are. And sometimes that goes toward the beach house for the family outing or whatever. And not acquiring any debt along the way, keeping things debt free is the way we live. Pay it off as you get it. And another fortunate thing about me retiring early is okay, healthcare. Well, my husband's gonna carry me on his
Hmm.
insurance for a year. He's a teacher, so I have that advantage. I'm able to because my insurance will be covered for a year under him. He plans on retiring at 64 next year, and so, we'll have to pocket it and pay for our insurance, through the Cobra or whatever, but we're not too concerned about it at that point. Yeah.
That's great. I really appreciate that you brought up the healthcare question. I think that is frequently one of the things that makes people pause and think a little bit more about early retirement and what the healthcare options are going to look like. And I know we've done a couple of podcasts and are going to continue to do a few podcasts with the healthcare authority about what options you might have for continuing your insurance as a retiree. Or, I mean, it sounds like
Mhm.
you've got a great situation with your spouse being on the SEB program and having insurance options through there. So that's great. Tracie, I'm going to ask you a question that we didn't prepare in advance for, but tell me a little bit more about the conversation about you retiring a year before your spouse. I know that's something my spouse and I have talked a little bit about, and my spouse also works in the
Mhm.
school districts, and I know I'm oftentimes jealous in the summer when she's at home and I'm going to work, and so maybe you've already had some experience with that as you go into work and your spouse staying home. But like, what's the first year of retirement going to look like for you when you retire and they're still working?
Right, and yeah, he's a teacher, so he does have summers off. So,
Yeah.
we're gonna get a little feel for what it's like both being off together this summer,
Yeah.
but then he's gonna go back to work. Well, it was my idea first, so I'm gonna say I'm giving myself the priority, but he's gonna go out early next year, but I think it's a good idea to get one of us, hey, me first, in the mode of retirement, you know? Get me on my path, get me into my routine, let me figure it out, and I'd probably be catering to him more in my retirement, now that he's still working. Hey, maybe I'll make his lunch in the morning. Who knows? But I just think it's a good idea. It will be good for us to get me settled in first and then have him retire and then we'll be together.
Yeah, it's great too that in his situation, it's a year to look forward to. It's not 10 years down the road where maybe some jealousy starts to build up. I really like the idea of thinking about what does that practice retirement look like for that summer when you're together and thinking about it, and then provide some motivation for retiring earlier. Is there anything you would have done differently, looking back on your career that maybe would have helped prepare you even more for retirement? You've already mentioned keeping out of debt. Is there other pieces of advice you might think people could benefit from hearing?
Well, as far as doing anything differently, I have no regrets. I'm really thankful that I was able to stay home for a few years with my daughter. Thankful I came back part-time as she got a little older and then back to full-time. I just was able to make family priorities along the way. I just encourage people, you're going to do it anyway, but what feels right for you and your family? I mean, I left employment 100%. It's like, I'm going home. I totally walked off full time. Good job.
Hmm.
But at the time, I needed to be home. I wanted to be home. And then just truly feel blessed to be able to come back and end my season here at DRS. It's been great. I've had opportunities and a couple different jobs within trust accounting to get me where I am, and very grateful. And people take advantage of whatever additional retirement supplemental option or, the DCP program. A little goes a long way over time. Stay consistent in that. You're not going to miss it. I mean, I know I've heard people say that. I listen to you guys' podcasts anyway. It's true. Stay consistent. Little goes a long way over time.
That's great. And so you talked a little bit about your schedule and how you're going to do this practice retirement this summer with your husband. More on the personal side, are there particular things that you're looking forward to, maybe hobbies that you are hoping that you can spend more time on now? And are there things that you're scared or worried about?
Well, I do plan on taking it slow. I like routine. Been doing it for a lot of years. My time has not been my own. It's been my employer's for the most part, until 5 I'm out of there, but I do like routine. I'm gonna allow myself some time to figure out what that really looks like for me. I'm gonna try to live life doing more of the little things. I wanna can. I used to crochet. I wanna maybe learn to do needlepoint. Those things where you sit. Right now at work, I sit. I sit, stand station, yeah, go on walks, go on a break, but come back and I'm at my station. When I come home from work, I don't wanna sit. So those things that I don't do now that I'm looking forward to doing. I wanna be more active as well. Got a bike. I wanna be able to do simple things, run my errands with my bike. I live within the city, so not far from stores and stuff. Vegetable garden, I started one this year. I know there's gonna be trial and error with that. I think I did things too close together. My carrots are just, like, in clumps. So learning that, maybe if I can grow enough to actually that'd be great. I like to do landscaping and flowers. So just keeping busy doing that. We have a travel trailer, take that out more. I do wanna be of service to the elderly community. Yeah, I'm gonna be retired, but I'm not old retired, so I have some good years in me, to serve others, and I'd like to do that. In addition, our family's growing. I have grandchildren, another one coming in September, and looking forward to spending some special dates with them. I was listening to a retirement podcast and just on the radio, one of the radio stations, I heard them saying that retirement is about reinventing yourself. It's a whole new something, and that's what I intend to do. I don't have it all fine tuned, but I'll be out there reinventing myself.
Well, that sounds wonderful. That's a good quote. It's very aspirational and it's this whole new chapter. That's
Yeah.
usually the phrase that I've been using lately is like looking at my life with different chapters. I'm like, okay, I'm going to close this chapter and then
Mhm.
start this new one.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Good. So it sounds like all excitement, no apprehension or stress or anything.
None at all.
Well, thank you for joining us, Tracie. I appreciate we didn't have to twist your arm too hard to do this. And I think you've shared a lot of good lessons and inspiration for folks. I really appreciate you talking about how you've changed paths a couple of different times and found something that works for you along the way. And I think that's really encouraging for people to hear. So appreciate that you took the time to chat with us today.
Thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
Thanks
Thanks for listening, and now we'd love to hear from you. What topics would you like to hear about? What questions do you have for us? Send an email to drs.podcasts@drs.wa.gov. That's drspodcasts@drs.wa.gov. The Department of Retirement Systems provides this podcast as a public service, but it's neither a legal interpretation nor a statement of DRS policy. References to any specific product or entity do not constitute an endorsement or recommendation. The views expressed by guests are their own, and their appearance on the program does not imply an endorsement of them or any entity they represent. Views and opinions expressed by DRS employees are those of the employees and do not necessarily reflect the view of DRS or any of its officials.